What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to talk about the Boker Magnum Rainbow Mermaid Folding Knife. This is a beautiful knife. This is a 6.4 ounce knife sporting a 3.75 inch blade made of 440A hardened steel. Sells for about $30 at Blade HQ. And we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of this knife. In terms of some comparison knives, not necessarily in quality and build, of course, but just in terms of how they carried in size. At that 6.4 ounces. The XM18 from the Hinderer knives, full titanium. This knife weighs in at 6.1 ounces and carries very similarly in the pocket. The Cold Steel 8015. This one weighs in at exactly 6.4 ounces, so the exact same weight. This one actually carries a little bit bulkier, but otherwise it carries very similar in the pocket. But then the last one I'm going to go ahead and throw out there is the full copper edition of the Spyderco PM2. And this particular knife is actually 7.4 ounces. So this would be, in terms of an ostentatious knife that is unnecessarily showy, and this is showy just in terms of copper, but, with unnecessary excess weight, that might be the one to compare it to. In terms of an actual use knife, I think the one that would be kind of price comparable, obviously not in size, but the QSP Penguin is what I'm going to use as kind of a basis for the cost to help you decide if this is the one that you should go for, or if the Boker Magnum Mermaid Rainbow is the one you should be going for. So let's jump right into this. Normally I'll actually I'll cover the pros first, but there's so many cons against this particular knife that I think I'm going to go through the cons first for those people who might just want to rule this out as a possible knife for them. It's very important though that you do stick around for the pros, just so you can get my overall opinions on this. Otherwise you're going to really miss out on something important. On the con side, this one has really awful action. I tried to tune the pivot as well as I could without introducing blade play, and it was very, very tough, and you really have to commit to it to get that. I mean, this one's very easy just to fail. I mean, of course, you could do that with many flippers, but it's really hard, whether you push or light switch this particular one. And if you're going to light switch hard, you're going to have to commit to slamming your finger against these jimps here, and then you feel like you're hitting, actually, the jimping on the back side of the hinder. So that's definitely one of the cons on this knife. Is the detent wasn't bad. I mean, I can't shake this knife open. So in that sense, it's not, it's not the detent. It's just the washers. And in fact, I guess that kind of leads into what causes that. And deep down in here, you can see that this thing uses plastic washers. These aren't even like Teflon. I didn't disassemble the knife entirely, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But they're just essentially plastic. They're not even Teflon. Going back to a comparison knife for $30, this one actually uses phosphor bronze and Teflon. It uses a pair of them in there to create for some really good action for this QSP. No complaints on that one, but yeah, some complaints here. So terrible action. This knife is just wrought with cliche. I don't get why people are so enamored of it. And, everybody, is mesmerized by this thing. But I don't entirely understand that. It's just cliche written. I mean, first and foremost, this is a mermaid with a flipper. And the flipper of the mermaid is a flipper. So, that's really funny. And then the scales, you can see the nice scale material are actually scales of a mermaid or a fish or whatever. So, scales are scales. I guess. But... So for me, it's just too cliche written, almost as if we can't even take this knife seriously. Really, it lends itself not well to being taken seriously. It's a 3.75 inch blade. If they want people to carry this knife, they would have cut this down to a 3 inch or made a 3 inch or a 3.5 inch. But 3.75 inch makes it uncarryable for so many people, even some of the more liberal states who have 3.5 inch knife laws. So for me, I was like, that kind of precludes people from really legally carrying this knife, whereas I think they would normally want to, because it's kind of a cool show knife. It does have a right-hand tip-down carry-only pocket clip, and speaking of that pocket clip, it is actually deep carry, you'll notice, but again, on the con side, the screws just stick up so far you can't even get to that deep portion of it. They just stick out so far, so you don't get to take advantage of that. And also, when you're putting this in your pocket, you're rubbing your pants. and the flipper's kind of in the wrong direction. It literally catches on your pants like a reverse Emerson wave. So if had it been flipped up the other way, it would have been fine. But of course, that would have ruined some of the aesthetics of it that you see here. So just another one of the cons. And this thing, 440A steel. Come on. I did cut boxes with this, and it cut like 3 of them, and has literally become dull. I mean, I'm not going very hard, but you can see that it leaves a mark there, and I have not done anything special. This thing went dull so fast, it wasn't even funny. Going again back to our comparison knife here, D2, there's no way I'm going to do that with this D2 steel, which is very sharp. So, again, $30 knife, D2 steel, not so sure. When I did have to loosen the pivot to make it so I could open it up, well, there again, it was a T9. I mean, this is the one I had to use. Who uses a T9? And then in terms of like maintenance of this thing, these are actually T6.5s, I swear, because T6s are super loose in there, but T7s won't go in deep enough. So doing maintenance on this thing, you can just kind of forget about that. We have a dulling knife. The color scheme, this is the last thing I want to talk about, and then we'll jump into the pros. The color scheme, it looks fine and beautiful, right? Oops, sorry, out of camera there. In the closed position, but you want to highlight a knife in the open position, and so this color scheme, you have your, from I guess red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Your color spectrum for the rainbow goes this way. But when you open the knife and you'd want to show it off like this, you end up with a mismatched direction. On the scale side, you're going in this direction for your rainbow coloring, and on this side, you're going here. So it kind of ends up looking like this crazy crisscross pattern, going over here. Sorry, I can't stop laughing anymore. April Fools, everybody. This is obviously not a knife that I'm seriously reviewing. I guess the point I do want to make, though, is if you don't have a knife or two, I have another kind of gag knife. This is the Boker Kalashnikov, the Dessert Donut Edition, I think it's called, or Dessert Warrior Donut Edition. It's, honestly, we could just sit here and make fun of ourselves all day, people that review knives. This is nothing more than just a practical joke video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, like and subscribe. And have yourselves a great day. Take care now.